All right. Good morning and welcome to Scottsdale Center for Spiritual Living. I am Reverend Jill Clements and I am the founding senior minister of this community. And we are on Facebook Live and like most churches these days, facing what we are, we're all online and talking to you from our homes or offices, and just delighted that you have found us. If you're one of our members or if you're one of our regular attendees, good morning, glad to see you. If you found us for the very first time, welcome. We really do have a facility that we meet in on a regular basis, but again, under circumstances, we're doing this on Facebook for now, and we would invite you to come and join us at the center when we are able to meet back there again. If you're out of town and next time you come through Scottsdale, come by and see us and say hi and have a cup of coffee. So good morning. We practice life-affirming spirituality for successful living at Scottsdale Center. We also teach what's called the science of mind, founded by Dr. Ernest Holmes back in the 1930s when he wrote the original material that we have seen be adopted by most motivational and success speakers these days. So it's a wonderful teaching. We're delighted that we have it to teach and that you're here to hear today. So glad you're with us. I want to acknowledge this morning our practitioner, Lori Frisbee, who is online with us. She's also a moderator of the Facebook Live. And Joe Hammer, our Marketing and Communications Director. Good morning. Joe is also with us this morning, and both of them will be moderating and responding to your comments or questions if you might have them. Go ahead and chat with each other. Say hi to each other. Say hi to the center, and I look forward to reading your comments after service this morning. So I'm happy you're here. I want to start like we always do with a reading and our invocation. And this morning we are reading from a wonderful little book. It is called Creative Ideas, a Spiritual Compass for Personal Expression, and it is written by our founder, Ernest Holmes. And in it is a series of very short little readings and some affirmations then that follow that, little meditative affirmations. And today's is Now Am I Made Whole? If God is the all-encompassing deity, then our body and every part of it is made out of that which God is. The infinite substance which is of God is the substance of our body. It is constantly flowing through us, taking form in the likeness of perfect, whole, complete cells. There is a perfect pattern for every cell of every organ, every tissue, every bone, and every drop of blood. The cells of the body are filled with life, vitality, strength, and cleanliness as we accept their divine source. And as the body knows no time or degree, it can only respond and express instantaneously. The divine presence, being everywhere, is present with me. It is that which I really am. Would you join me now in an invocation? How good it is that we can come together on Sunday morning through this wonderful experience of technology, enabling us to stay connected in community, even though we are physically separate these days and doing some home shelter. We recognize that there is only one life. That life is God, and that life is my life now and the life of each and every one within the sound of my voice, for we are all one in the wholeness and the divinity of the one source, the one power, the one presence, united in that wholeness, always connected, never separate, irrespective of what it may seem like or look like in this world of effects. We know the reality of this is that we are connected as the one in the one. And so knowing this, I speak my word for and about Scottsdale Center for Spiritual Living, knowing that this center is blessed through the presence of all who support it, through watching our videos, through participating in community, and through just studying this teaching. I know too that each and every one that is listening today is blessed beyond the ideas of the physical world, and that we know, claim, and accept that those words that we just heard in that reading from Dr. Ernest Holmes, that we are the divinity of God. We are the wholeness of the divine in form, that each and every cell of our bodies is whole, perfect, and complete in its manifestation, filled with the absolute wisdom and intelligence of spirit flowing through our bodies now. I bless all faith traditions, knowing that there are many, many paths to understanding God, many paths to a personal relationship with Spirit. And whatever that path may be that has led us to this place, I bless it. I bless it and each one that is on it. And it is with a grateful heart, filled with joy and thanksgiving, that I release this prayer into the action of law, knowing that it is already done. And we affirm together, and so it is. Well, I want to remind you too, I mentioned Lori Frisbee, our practitioner, is online with us here today, and she is also our practitioner in prayer service to the community. If you go onto our website, scottsdalecsl.org, you can see the prayer request area and just leave your prayer request there, and Lori will respond to you. If you need to have a phone prayer with her, you can request it through that as well, and she will get back in touch with you and schedule something. So thank you, Lori, for being in service and continuing to be our prayer partner in this community. Blessings. Announcements this morning quickly. We are starting a brand new book study for the month of April, and our book this month is by Elizabeth Gilbert, and it is called Big Magic. Big Magic. And it is Creative Living Beyond Fear. Now, our series and our talks this month are Bright Beginnings. Bright Beginnings. And this book goes along with that, with the creativity and creating our lives and so forth. And Elizabeth, of course, is a wonderful author. If you're not familiar with her, you may be. She's the one that wrote Eat, Pray, Love, that wonderful book that was turned into a movie with Julia Roberts. So I'm looking forward to exploring her work. I've not read any of her material before, so I'm really looking forward to that and hope that you will join us. We're doing this on Zoom, and we're doing it from 6 to 7:30 on Tuesday evenings, and everyone is welcome to join us. Now we're changing up our Zoom access a little bit. We've had some information come to us this week from several sources that are telling us that Zoom platform has some security issues. So they've given us some steps to take in order to limit that. And we are taking those steps. And one of those is to have a random meeting number assigned to each one of our Zoom conferences, and so you'll need to go on to the website to get that information. We're not going to publish that on social media any longer. We're going to have to go make a second step and go on to our Scottsdale CSL website to find that information. And then there'll be another couple of steps that we're also looking at implementing on that as well, just to make sure that we all are safe, of course, and that we aren't interrupted with any nonsense on our Zoom calls. So that change is coming up. And that website's also where you can sign up for our weekly newsletter. And we're considering adding a few more issues of that, maybe not issues of the newsletter, but maybe daily affirmations and things like that. So you'll want to get on the email list so that you can stay informed about what we're offering and what we're doing. So scottsdalecsl.org will get you signed up there too if you're not already there. Midday meditations are continuing with Lori Frisbee, our practitioner, and she's doing those at noon on Zoom also. It's kind of a midday spiritual snack. 30 minutes of connection time and community and connecting with Lori and some meditations and just a really lovely, lovely space with her on Tuesdays and Thursdays starting about, I think she logs on about 11:55 or 11:50 so that you can connect in community before she starts the process. So that's open to everyone also. All right, enough of that. So there was a Jewish man who was celebrating Passover, and he was having his lunch during the Passover holiday time. And he decided to go outside and sit on the park bench. It was a nice day, much like today is. And as he was sitting there, he's enjoying his matzah. Matzah is that crackery kind of bread that's got all the perforations and holes in it and stuff. And he's enjoying that, and this man comes and sits down beside him who is blind. And the Jewish man is feeling very neighborly, so he offers the man a piece of his matzah. And the blind man takes it and he holds on to it and he feels it and he runs his hands across it and he's looking a little puzzled, and finally he looks over at the Jewish man and he goes, "Who wrote this nonsense?" Well, I hope that brought a smile to your face and brightened your day. And Bright Beginnings is, as I said, our monthly theme for April. And I had to start with a Passover joke, of course, because Passover starts on Wednesday of this week. It starts on the 8th. And Bright Beginnings, as I thought about this theme for the month, I cannot help but think that the home office team that put together our year of themes had no idea what we would be facing in April, both nationally and globally in community. And as I thought about bright beginnings, and I wondered, what is so bright about this beginning? April 1st here in Arizona, we have been, ordered for home shelter. Wow, is it bright? Is that a bright beginning to our month and to our spring? But spring is usually that time, of course, when things are bursting forth, or the bulbs are blooming, the green sprouts are coming up, and new beginnings. But home shelter didn't feel much that way. It didn't feel like the birthing out. It felt more like a contraction of coming within. And as I've continued to think about it, I've begun to discover the gifts, and I hope that you have too, but I've begun to discover the gifts, the joy, the peace, the new beginnings, and the letting go. And this week being Passover, the story of Passover reminds me of freedom, but it also represents to us transformation. I've always loved the story. I think it's a beautiful, beautiful story. And I don't know if you've seen the movie, The 10 Commandments, with Charlton Heston. It was in 1956, I believe. And it's one of those big Technicolor blockbuster films that really describes the book of Exodus and the freeing of the Hebrew slaves and Moses and all of that. But if you remember the biblical story, it starts out with Moses' birth and adoption, and during the slavery time of the Hebrews in Egypt. The Egyptian Pharaoh had become concerned about the numbers and the strength of the Hebrew population, even in slavery and captivity. They were still just continuing to grow and get larger in numbers. And he got concerned about that, so he decided that all male babies needed to be drowned in the river. They seemed to like to do that in those ancient days, getting rid of the firstborn. We've heard that same theme in many stories in the Bible. But this Pharaoh was saying that that's what's going to happen. Well, the Moses' mother decided that she just couldn't do that. So she put him in a little cradle at the bank of the Nile River. Well, who should find him but the daughter of the Pharaoh? And she took him into the palace and adopted and raised him in the palace in luxury. Later in his life, as he grew up, Moses learned of his Hebrew heritage, and he began to assist the Hebrew slaves and support them. And then he got caught. He got caught doing this. He got banished from the palace, and he left Egypt. Well, as he's leaving Egypt, what does he run into but a burning bush that talks to him? And it turns out it's God. And God is telling him, Moses, you need to go back to Egypt and free all of the Hebrew slaves. Let my people go. Moses goes, okay, I can do that. So he goes back and he goes to the Pharaoh and he says, Pharaoh, let my people go. And Pharaoh, being the nice guy that he was, says, absolutely, Moses, have a nice trip. No, right? Not at all. He says, no way, it's not going to happen. Not going to happen. And over a period of time, then God begins to support Moses and starts sending these plagues to Egypt. He sends 9 of them. And as everyone continues, Pharaoh says, all right, I promise I'll let them go at the end of it. Just make it stop. The plague stops, and he changes his mind. He won't let them go. This goes on 9 times. Goes on 9 times until finally the 10th one, Pharaoh says, okay, fine, let them go. That one finally got his attention, and it once again is this idea of kill all firstborn males. And this time, God included not only the humans, but the animals. Not only the humans, but the animals. At the same time, God is giving the Israelites specific instructions for their last meal in Egypt. He says, kill a lamb, roast it in the fire. Don't cook it any other way, but roast it in the fire. And then take the blood and put it over your door so that the angel of death that's coming for all of the Egyptian firstborn will pass over your homes. Will pass over your homes. Well, this worked. The Pharaoh freed everybody, the Israelites and Moses, and they all left in the great Exodus that we hear the story in the Bible. And Moses led them across the Red Sea, or I guess they went through the Red Sea with a little bit of help of God. And you probably know the rest of that story. They then wandered in the desert for 40 years, and the 10 Commandments came out of that, and many of the other Bible stories that we're familiar with. But today, I want to really just focus on the message of Passover. The message of Passover. If we look at this story factually, it depicts a really odd God, doesn't it? A really odd God. And taken metaphysically, metaphorically, and not literally, it then becomes the story of freedom. And it becomes the story of passing over or passing out of one state of consciousness into another. It's the process of transformation. And when we can elevate it and look at the dynamics of the story from that standpoint, it can become very relevant to us today. If we go back to the original Bible story, it tells us that there were 70 Hebrews who moved into Egypt to escape the famine that was happening in their own country. And they discovered this beautiful valley that was very fertile where they could grow their crops and have their animals and grow their families. And it was a wonderful, wonderful place to live and grow. But over time it changed. And what was once a nurturing womb of growth became an oppressive society where they were enslaved. And I would bet that many of us have experienced this similar type of path in our lives. Maybe we develop a career or a relationship that is thriving for a while, and we grow and we expand. But then, like our mother's womb, it begins to become constricting, tight, time to leave. Time to leave. Egypt, in our story, symbolizes a constrictive consciousness. And you may have experienced this feeling. You may even be experiencing it right now in this time of home shelter. Are you feeling constricted? Like you can't leave? During home shelter, the tension between the part of us that wants to stay and the part of us that wants to go, the part of us that wants to stay in the old and the familiar, what we know, even though we believe where we want to be, the change that we want to experience is going to be a better place for us. we just can't imagine what it's going to take to cross the bridge in between. Sometimes it feels like crawling through broken glass, the things that we have to do to change and transform and move from where we are to where we want to be. The longer that tension goes on, the more likely that something is going to happen that causes us to move. Because what are we doing? We're setting up that tension in the law. We're putting a lot of emotion and energy on staying. We're putting a lot of emotion and energy on where we want to be, the change we're praying about and trying to create. And then we have a lot of fear in the middle, which is, what do I have to go through to get there? And am I willing to do that? And as we have that experience, the universal law is trying to support us, but it's depending on where the tendency of that thinking is in that tension that it's going to support us. And like I say, sometimes something happens. In Moses' case, once he got discovered assisting his Hebrew brothers and sisters, then his life began to transform, right? He began to change. And then he ran into a burning bush that talked to him, right? God had his attention at that point, I think. God got his attention at that point. How is God getting your attention today? How is God getting your attention today? Ernest Holmes, the founder of Centers for Spiritual Living and the author of The Science of Mind, says, nature will not let us stay in any one place too long. She will let us stay just long enough to gather the experience necessary to the unfolding and advancement of the soul. This is a wise provision. For should we stay here too long, we would become too set, too rigid, too inflexible. Nature demands the change in order that we may advance. When the change comes, we should welcome it with a smile on our lips and a song in our heart. That's not always the easiest thing to do, is it? To face change with a smile on our lips and a song in our hearts. Even if we say we want the change, the fact that we're doing it, sometimes it makes us a little crazy, maybe. Yeah, maybe a little crazy. So how is this change in your lifestyle right now? The change in your lifestyle right now of staying at home, how is that affecting you? You know, I'm working from home mostly right now, and it's not the same. It's not the same. I have my laptop and I have a printer and so forth, but I don't have all of the office equipment that we have that supports us in our office. I don't have the environment of people around me. I have my cat. I have Sophia. She's underfoot all the time, of course, but I don't have the support of the network around me that's usually there when I'm in the office. So it's not bad. It's just different, and I have to pay more attention. I'm much more present to everything because I don't just turn on my computer and everything's there. I have to go through a few extra steps to get connected, to get into the network and the system and so forth. So how is this affecting you? Are you more present in every day because it's new and different? The routine is not the same. We can't exactly be on autopilot right now. We've got some different things we're dealing with. For many of us in Arizona, we just started this. This is the 5th day. I don't know about you, but some moments I feel like it's day 55, but it's only day 5. So it's change, and it's change that we're all dealing with on a global basis right now. There's an old book that was titled, Wherever You Go, There You Are. And it's a meditation book. And I think the idea is very relevant to us today in our current circumstances, but it was also relative in this story about the Israelites, because if you recall, after they escaped Egypt and were freed, they wandered around the desert for 40 years. They didn't just go right into the promised land. They wandered around the desert for 40 years. It was a time of transformation. The thinking that had allowed them to be enslaved in Egypt had to be healed and transformed into the new thinking of freedom. And in this example, it took 40 years. 40 is sort of a magic number in the Bible. There was 40 days with Jesus doing his dance with the devil, and there was 40 days and nights of the flood of Noah, and now 40 years in the desert with the Israelites. Are we in our 40 days of transformation as a global family right now? Maybe. I don't know. I don't know. But they had left that bad situation in Egypt, and they just could not arrive in the promised land and bring that same thinking, right? They just couldn't bring the same thinking. So how many times, though, have we done that in our lives, where we have packed that baggage rather than letting it be put away somewhere, donating it somewhere? We've packed it up and taken it with us to the new place. We moved to a new city, or maybe we changed jobs, or maybe we got a new partner, only to find the same issues in the new town, the new relationship, the new boss, because we're the common factor, aren't we? And if we haven't changed our thinking, haven't transformed our thinking, our life, nothing's going to be any different. The background, the backdrop might be a different color, but it's going to be the same us there unless we do that deeper inner work of transformation. We have to change what we believe about ourselves on the inside in order to see the change in the outer effects of our lives. You hear me say it all the time: successful living from the inside out. Successful living starts inside. The great lesson of the Passover is that change is possible, and that how things are now are not how things are going to always be. It is said that this too shall pass, and it will. We will get back to some shade of normal, where we are interacting again, where we're back at work, where we're becoming stable again in our economy. It's all going to happen. We've been here before. We can get through it if we stay in our faith, we continue to believe, we continue to stay connected. The science of mind tells us that everything is temporary. You know, these bodies are a temporary vehicle for our soul's journey and its expression here now. Everything is temporary, and it just gets recycled back into spirit, which is the one substance. So this virus and this time of home shelter, it's temporary. It's going to resolve itself at some point. We need patience and we need faith. I saw a quote this week that I really liked, that I'd like to kind of finish up this talk with this morning. And it said that God now has the entire planet in timeout. And I chuckled as I thought about that, you know, we put kids time out when they need to think about what they've done and realize the magnitude of it. If they didn't clean up something, or if they broke something, or they maybe didn't behave the way the parents were suggesting that they behave, they go into timeout for a while. And are we in timeout? Is it a time for us to step back, and a time to think, a time to rest, a time to reflect? Time to reflect on our life experience, whether it's a few years or a lot of years. What's it been to this point? How have I gotten to be here today? Am I happy with what I've done and where the progress is? Are there things I would like to do differently? As we emerge from this home shelter time, who will we be on the other side? We're at choice. We're in timeout to think about what we've been doing, to come out of that timeout, and perhaps we are transformed. Perhaps it's a time of transformation for us. Maybe we truly are in the cocoon right now, emerging as the butterfly here in a few weeks, or whatever the timeline ends up being for us, to be that new and improved individual, new and improved community, new and improved society and world. Maybe perhaps a world that works for all finally will come to fruition. So this week, I'm going to invite you as part of your spiritual practice to go within. Take a few moments in the stillness, to be in the stillness of your own being, of your own thoughts, and reflect on how you are experiencing this time out of your life. How can you maximize this time for yourself? How can you do that thing that you've been wanting to do that you just haven't done? Whether it's decluttering your home, whether it's reading that stack of books that's been building up over time, whether it's taking a class online and learning something new. What is it? Spending time with your family. What is it that is the experience that you are seeking? Ask yourself too, what am I allowing to pass over? What am I allowing to pass over as I experience this time of transformation? Is it the hustle and bustle and the hectic schedule? Is it the setting aside of the important things for the busyness things? What are you going to allow to pass over in your life? Thank you for being with us. I appreciate your time this morning, and I really want to thank you for being a part of my life and a part of this community, and for being just a wonderful part of life itself. And I want to invite you today to join us also in the spiritual practice of tithing. We are a tithing community. We tithe into the community, and the community tithes back out into the world, practicing that universal law of circulation. And we recognize that there are multiple channels through which spirit, the good of God, can flow. And it's not just a paycheck or a retirement plan or whatever our normal flow of income is. There's multiple ways that we can be fed by spirit, spiritually, physically, emotionally, financially, whatever that might be. Just many channels of how we are cared for by the divine. And you can go onto our website, scottsdalecsl.org, and there's a donate button there. It takes you directly into our PayPal account. You'll be invited to set up an automatic donation where it comes out automatically every week for you, or you can just do a one-time each week if that's your preference as well. And your donation does support our community. It supports this teaching of affirmative spiritual principles to create that world that works for all. And we know that it begins with us individually, and then as we express in community, we influence those around us. So I'm going to invite you to join us in our affirmation this morning. I think Joe's going to be able to post that up in the comments section for you if you would like to read along at home with your affirmation. And it is, I am an open channel through which prosperity flows. I accept the divine flow of goodness, ideas, and substance through me now. I am grateful for my full and prosperous life. And so it is. Thank you for your donations to our community. And I have a couple of reminders before we sign off here today. First, go to the website and make that donation, but also sign up for the newsletter. Stay connected with us. Let us know that you're part of this community. We'd love to stay in contact with you. And then Tuesdays and Thursdays, you can find Lori's information there for midday connection, midday meditations. And also her prayer request is there. If you want to do a prayer request, you can type that in there and it will go right to her. And Tuesday evening book study with me, 6 to 7:30. Look forward to seeing you there for our book of the month, Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. And that's available on Amazon. The link, I believe, is up on our website that you can see the link to the book also. Check out everything on the website. We're adding stuff there all the time. We've got a new tab on the left-hand side that is fun, free resources, and several things have been loaded into that for you. Check that out, and there'll be more things added, and I hope that they are supportive to you during this time. Thank you again for tuning in. We do expect to be here again next week at about 9:50, 9:55 to check in and say hi, and then begin our gathering time together at 10. So blessings on you this week. I invite you to join me for an affirmative prayer treatment as we close out our service this morning. How good it is to be in community today as we recognize that there is one power, one presence, one life, and that life is God, that power is God, the presence is God. It is all that there is. It is in, through, and as everything that exists, has been, is now, or ever shall be. It is the infinite. It is infinite intelligence, wisdom, intuition, inspiration. It is harmony and balance and joy and love and peace. And it is so much more that my simple words could never describe the magnificence of the divine, this all-knowing, all-loving, omnipresent source. And it is the source of me, of my very being, of the life that I live, breathe, and experience here on planet Earth. It is in me, through me, as an expression of itself as I move amongst this world of effects. I am that intelligence and wisdom. I am the inspiration. I am the love, peace, joy, harmony, balance, order. And as I know this truth for myself, I know it for each one of us that is gathered here today, each one that is within the sound of my voice that ever hears this prayer. We are all united in this one wholeness, in this one consciousness of God, forever connected together in the one. Never separate, irrespective of appearance. And so knowing this unity, knowing this wholeness, I speak my word for and about each one of us, knowing, claiming, and accepting the divinity that we are as we live, move, and breathe, as Spirit has its way through us and as us. I know that each of us is lifted up into the light of this prayer in this moment, for wholeness, for peace, for health, for clarity, for compassion, for kindness, for joy, and for love. For it all begins in love. I bless us all this week going forward, knowing that we are blessed with prosperity and continuing good health, joy-filled relationships and connections. And I know for anyone who has anything on their heart this day, whether it's any sort of a fear, any sort of health challenge, something that is unclear, anything at all, that as it is lifted into this prayer in this moment and held lovingly by this community, that we know the good of God is right where that is. That whatever needs to be revealed is clearly revealed. Whatever order needs to arrive, arrives. Whatever flow needs to happen, the good and the abundance of God flows. Whatever healing occurs is revealed. And how grateful I am for the knowing, for the manifestation of this prayer, for the joy that we are. I thankfully and joyfully just release this into the action of law, the activity of mind, knowing that it is done. It is already so in the mind of God, else I could not come up with these words, for we are all one in this connected spirit. And so knowing that it is done, I simply release it into the law, awaiting its full manifestation in form. And we affirm together, and so it is. Thank you for being here. I love you all. I miss you tremendously. I cannot wait for us to be back together again soon. But meanwhile, we'll see you on the internet. Bye.